Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
What verse?
What?
What verse?
50, 258. Can you get this? This works, right? This is the one?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So during COVID, we asked people not to take their head to the floor, just to keep minimized contact. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. What? Bhagavad Gita.
258.
2.58. Second chapter, 58th verse.
58.
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur.
You don't mind? I ask something. I need one. You have extra? No.
You look in the cozy room, in the chimney.
Okay.
Maybe they have one big one.
Okay, because I have to see a big one. I change it.
Okay.
Smaller one.
Okay. Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda.
Okay, I put the laptop is charged enough, so I just put it there already. The verse is open, you can triple check. And you just have to share screen, right?
Yeah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna. Are you gonna check people in?
That's what I'm running back and forth for that reason.
Do you have anybody help packing?
Yeah, Sridhar and Sudhir called them.
He's the only one.
But then Sridhar came, they made less samosas, didn't even tell them. So now I'm like,
If you need me out here, let me know. You can wait. You still have another hour and 15 minutes before they need to be packed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Haraya Rama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hare Haraya Rama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Vaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopa Govinda Ram Sima Sudam. 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotara Satra Shishim on his divine grace. Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai, Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Gaur Prem Anande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha.
Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha.
Shilatam Kanakalai.
Shilatam Kanakalai.
Ito Nrisingha Parato Nrisingho.
Ito Nrisingha Parato Nrisingho.
Jato Jato Jagitato Nrisingha.
Yato Yato Yamitato Nrisingho.
Bahir Nrisingho Hridaye Nrisingho.
Bahir Nrisingho Hridaye
Nrisinghamadin Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasinghamadi Sharanam Prabhade.
Nrisimhavadim Sharanam Prabhade.
Narasinghamadi Sharanam Prabhade.
Abakara Kamalabare Natham Adbhuta Srinam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanuvringa Krishabhakita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Akara Kama Navare Abuta Singha Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanupringa Ishabhalita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Nrisingha Bhagavan
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the ISKCON Philadelphia Sunday Feast. We are here at ISKCON of Philadelphia for the first time since March. It's actually not the first time we're going to be hosting a live class, but the first time we're going to have a live audience during class since March. So we also know that we have a group of devotees that have joined us via Facebook, YouTube, as well as Zoom. So welcome to all of you out there who are going to be attending the class. So we had a cancellation today for class. And last minute, His Grace Vishnugada Prabhu agreed to give the class. So we're very grateful and thankful for him for stepping in. He pulled off 3 major devotional services today. He cooked the feast, he led the kirtan, and now he's going to be giving the class. Yeah. So we're very, very thankful and grateful for him for stepping in and doing this. Before we begin, I want to come over and give everybody a quick darshan. Those of you who did not, who weren't here at the very beginning, when the Didi doors opened, we will give the darshan right now. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jai. Most Merciful Lordship, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki. Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. And their most beautiful Lordship, Shri Shri Radha Sharad Bihari ki. So those of you who want to come and take darshan, darshan will open up at 6 o'clock today, as well as the prasadam pickup for those of you who have ordered will begin at 6 o'clock. So we're going to be reading from the Bhagavad Gita. Text number 2, chapter 2, text 58. We're continuing our study. And at this point, we'll hand it over to His Grace Vishnugada Prabhu.
So we have an audience today that can repeat the Jai Radha Madhava thing, right? Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Naam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय गंगा देवी जमुना देवी तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय गौर प्रेमानंद All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We are reading today from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 58. So, because we have, yes,
Did you want me to share it on the screen then?
if you like, yeah, I think it's there, but I don't know how to do that.
Just have to click on this.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Then you just click there when you're done.
Click do share, which one?
Stop share.
Okay, good. Thank you. So since we have, what do you want me to take that off? Is it too muffled? I don't know. It's up to the management. Okay.
Okay.
So Hare Krishna. So we have attendees today. We'll actually chant this in a call and response fashion, if you like, so you can actually respond. Sometimes when it's on the Zoom, we don't do that because there's such a delay in the, but we'll do this. Okay. 258. So we even, a devotee has his book here. That's good.
Yes.
Sangharate chayang
Yada
Yada samharate chayam
kurmon sarvasha
purno gunaiva sarvasha
indriyan indriyarthebhyas
indriyan indriyani tebhyas
tasya pragya pratishtita
tasya prajna pratishtita
yada sangharate chayang
yada samharate chayam
kurmon sarvasha
kurmo ganiva sarvasha
indriyan indriyarthebhyas
indriyan
Indriyaryebyas
indriyani
tasya pragya pratishtita
tasya
tasya
prajna
prajna
pratishtita
pratishtita
yada sangharate chayang
yadha
यथा संहरते
samharate
सायं
chayam
kurmon sarvasha
कूर्मोऽग्निव
kurmonganiva
सर्वशः
sarvacha
indriyan indriyarthebhyas
इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
indriyaryebyas
tasya pragya pratishtita
तस्य
tasya
प्रज्ञा
prajna
प्रतिष्ठिता
pratishtita
Yada samharate chayam
yada
यदा संहरते
chayang
शयम्
kurvon nignani vasarvasha
kurmon
कूर्मोऽग्निव
kurmonganiva
sarvasha
सर्वशः
sarvacha
indriyan indrinarthevyas
इन्द्रियाणि
indriyarthebhyas
indriyaryebyas
tasya pragya pratishtita
तस्य
tasya
प्रज्ञा
prajna
प्रतिष्ठिता
pratishtita
यथा संरतेः छायां
yada
यदा संहरते
sangharate
चायं
chayam
कुर्मन् गणीवा सर्वसा
kurmon
कूर्मोऽग्निव
sarvasha
sarva
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस्
indriyan
इन्द्रियाणि
indriyarthebhyas
इन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
indriyaryebyas
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
tasya
तस्य
tasya
प्रज्ञा
pragya
prajna
प्रतिष्ठिता
pratishtita.
pratishtita
Dr. Sean. Yada
यदा
ये
संहरते
संहरते
chayam
चायं
सायं
Kurbo
Kurmonganyasa
Vasha
Mashaha
Indriyani
Indriyanindriyatebhyas
Tasya Pragya.
Tasya
Tasya
prajna
Prajna
pratishthita.
Pratishthita.
Good, good. Other bold souls.
यथा संहरते चायं
Yada
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 samharate
samharate
chayam
chayam
Samharatayam
कूर्मो अङ्गानि वा सर्वासा
kurmo
Kurmongani
angaiva
vasarvasha
sarvasha
इन्द्रिया अध्येभ्यास्
Indriyani
indriyanandriyatebhyas
Indriyarthebhyas
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
tasya
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 prajna
Pragya
Prajna
pratishtita
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 Yada
Yada
Samharate
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 winds up. Cha so
so
ayam
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 kurma
Kurma
tortoise
Taurus
angani
Angani
limbs
Limbs
iva
Iva
like
like
sarvasha
sarva
Sarvashaha
altogether
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 indriyani
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 senses
senses
indriyarthebhya
Indriyartebhya
from the sense objects
from
from
the
the
senses
subjects
tasya
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 his
his
pragya
prajna
Prajna
consciousness
consciousness
pratishtita
pratisthita
Pratishtita
fixed.
fixed.
One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Purport. The test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents, like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many such injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do nots, and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and do nots, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purposes. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise, who keeps the senses within. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, by his causeless mercy, has opened my darkened eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a nice verse from the Bhagavad Gita. We don't talk about turtles or tortoises very much usually. But when you might have, sometimes if you walk along the Schuylkill River, you might find a tortoise there. Especially when the sun's out, isn't it? When the sun's out, they go up on a log. And then, but sometimes they'll take their head and their arms back in. When is that? When do they do that? What? Yeah, when there's some danger, some difficult, they think there's something. Ordinarily, they're all, they're waddling along. But when there's some danger to their safety, then and then they go inside that shell, their shell, and it's very difficult for a predator to attack them because they got that hard shell there. So that this is the analogy of our senses. Our body really means senses. When we talk about I'm not the body, which means I'm not my senses. The senses are, the whole purpose of your body is to carry around your senses. If you didn't have senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, then your body wouldn't be of much use, or it'd be much less useful, right? You have your mind, but you execute your will and your desires through the senses. So if those senses, Srila Prabhupada compared them to be like, did you catch it? What was it in the purport? Snakes. And it's kind of like we're talking about something. Usually you think of the snake as attacking you, but they're your senses, your senses. So it's a little bit funny. But so the analogy is given that when you use your senses in the wrong manner, then it gets you into trouble, doesn't it? Just like, sometimes kids, you have a little kid, and kids are just balls of senses. No, not you. We're not talking about you. But little sense. So what are they tend to get into trouble, right? Because why? Because they're always going on checking. They want their senses, and sometimes they put their hand in some place. Oh, when they get so they get bitten by the snake of Maya. They get into trouble. So our senses are like that because we're looking for enjoyment through our senses. And the difficulty with enjoyment through the senses, at least the material senses, is the enjoyment that we get doesn't last very long. So we need more and more and more. It doesn't end. So Krishna consciousness means to learn to get satisfaction within from one's spiritual nature, not simply by engaging the senses in sense gratification. And how can you do that? How do you do that? Well, the senses will get you into trouble when they're looking for material gratification or sense gratification. That's described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, very nice verse. He says, Atmendriya priti bancha tare bolekam. Atmendriya. That means your own senses. Priti, you want to satisfy your own senses. Vancha means we desire to satisfy our own senses. Tare bolekam. That is lust. The desire to satisfy our own senses is called lust. Krishnendriya priti icha dhare premna. And the desire to satisfy, or the determination to satisfy Krishna's senses, that's called Prem Nam. Prem Nam is, that's called love. So the whole object of Krishna consciousness means to instead of using our senses fruitlessly, tirelessly to satisfy our own sense gratification, use those same senses for the purpose of satisfying Krishna. This is the basic message of the Bhagavad Gita. Generally speaking, people have a superficial knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And if you ask somebody, well, what is the message of Bhagavad Gita? You know what they say? Do your duty, right? Or be a good person. People say that. That's what you say. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is tells you to do your duty and be a good person. Well, actually, if you really get into the message of Bhagavad Gita, it's not so simple. I mean, no question, Arjuna was a good person. He was a moral person. And in the beginning of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he gave so many ideas, reasons why, it was immoral. He wouldn't be a good person if he fought against his relatives and friends and grandfather. It would be immoral. It's not a good, think about it. Killing your relatives, it's not something you think about doing every day, right? Not if you're a good person, right? Isn't it? If you're a moral person. People think about it, sure, usually if there's a murder case, usually it's somebody you know, right? But that's immoral. But so Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita is saying, hey, I cannot, Lord Krishna, here we are on the battlefield. Before this, they had tried all kinds of efforts to make some peaceful arrangements, so they wouldn't have to go to war. But actually, when it came down to it, there they were on the battlefield. All those people were arrayed against them on the other side. And Arjuna was saying, well, what's the use of this? Even if we win this battle, there's not going to be nobody around for me to enjoy my life with. We like to enjoy with our family and our friends, isn't it? So Arjuna's moral argument was the basis on what would make him happy. What would make him happy? And so right off the bat, Lord Krishna was very tough with Arjuna. They were friends. And up to that point, they had been talking as friends, one friend to another. They joke and, sometimes you banter back and forth. I remember I visited my father one time, and, he liked to play tennis. And so he and his friend were talking, and they would go back and were just kind of insulting each other back and forth. I thought, wow. But because they were friends, it was okay. Friends can do that. And they didn't take it seriously because it was just friends. But then at a certain point, Arjuna became the disciple of Krishna. He said, Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhava pichchami tvam dharma samudachita. He said, actually, I've been saying all these things, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I have no idea what my dharma is. I thought I was going to be a moral person. I thought I was going to be a good person, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do now. You tell me, please, what I should do. I accept you as my guru. So then Krishna says, you're speaking like you really know what you're talking about, but actually you're a fool. He says that very seriously because Arjuna had accepted him as a guru. And so somebody, if somebody comes to you, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? Usually we don't talk like that. We don't like to hear, what we're doing wrong. We're off. But if somebody says, if you come to somebody saying, can you tell me how I can improve? then that person might take the opportunity to say, hey, do it this way. So Krishna told it, do it, Arjun, you're making a big mistake. You're fool number one, because right off at the beginning, you're making all these calculations about what is the good thing to do, what is the moral thing to do, based on your conception of the material body and material senses. That's all. Therefore, you're a fool. And a person who's wise doesn't do that. They base their conceptions of what to do on the basis of the soul, the eternal soul. And what is the duty of the soul? That should be considered. There's so many moral duties. There's so many interesting things to do. But the duty of the soul, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. He says, give up all dharmas, all your idea of what's moral, all your ideas of what are good. It's very, 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 very controversial and very revolutionary. You know, he doesn't say be a Hindu. He doesn't say be a Christian. You know, he was the opportunity was there. Arjun said, tell me what I'm supposed to do. So Krishna didn't say, okay, be a Christian. Okay, be a Hindu, be a Sikh. No, he didn't say that. He said, Sarva dharman parityaja, give up all dharmas, mam ekam sharanam braja, and surrender to me. You surrender to me and do as I am asking you to do. In this battle, I want you to fight. I want you to fight, so that when you and your brothers take over the kingdom, the kingdom will be ruled by a God conscious in concert with my desires. So Krishna was at this point was interested in regime change. He was interested in regime change. So anyway, so Arjun's concept of what was the good and moral thing was completely overturned by Krishna, and Krishna told him to fight, and in fighting he would have to kill his grandfather, his cousin, brothers, etc. Now somebody said, well, you know, so I should go kill does Krishna want me to? No. I mean, Arjun was a warrior. That was part of his business. But one thing we should know, and that is that there are all so many different opinions about what to do in your life. Your grandfather, your father, your mother, your son, your brother, your friends, they all have a different opinion about what's the best thing for you to do in your life. Everybody's got. So in one sense, if you really understand that our real purpose in the human form of life is to come to God, to become a devotee of God, we may have to disregard, or in that sense, kill the opinions of so many other people if you really want to get the real benefit of human life. This human life is achieved only after many, many, many births. Many births from the lower species up into this human form of life. And in each species, you know this, that each species has a particular sense that's quite efficient, active, just like we can't hear, they have a dog whistle. Have you ever used a dog whistle? Do you have a pet dog? No. You have a dog whistle, but you can't hear the dog whistle, but the dog can hear the whistle because his ears are very, very attuned to that frequency. Thank you. But our ears aren't so good. So, the example is given in the Vedas that the fish's destruction is coming from the tongue, right. So the fisherman put some worm or whatever, some bait, and they think, well, this looks a little weird, but the tongue overwhelms them. It's, I'm going to eat it anyway. They get caught, right? That's fish. The tongue is their demise. And the moth, you know what the moth's demise is? What's that? Sight, yeah. So because a fire is burning, and there's an attraction. Senses are attracted and repulsed. That's the business of attraction and repulsion. So the moth is attracted to the fire. Oh, this is very nice, and flies into the fire, and the wings are singed, dies. Smell. The bee. Do they have those things in India? Venus flytraps? Do they have those? Anyway, there's certain flowers where an insect goes into the flower to enjoy the scent of the nectar and the honey in the flower, and then the flower closes and they're stuck, they're caught. So there's tongue, smell, sight, hearing. You know how a hunter catches the deer, at least in the old days? They would play on the flute. And the deer in the forest, usually deers move zoom, boom, fast. But hearing the flute, they become stunted, still. And they think, oh, what's that? And so the hunter takes that time to attack, kill. And then touch. Touch is like sexuality is touch. So the elephant hunters train female elephants to attract the male elephant. You know this? I don't know if they still do this. Probably not that many elephants. But they would get the female elephant to attract the male elephant and then run by a hole covered with grass. And so when the male elephant in his enthusiasm, this is, man-woman enthusiasm is very strong. Even in animal society, what to speak of human society. So anyway, so the elephant's running after the female elephant, and then all of a sudden, boom, caught, finished. So these different animals, each one has a powerful sense that leads to their demise. But the Vedas say human beings, all of our senses, all 5 of those senses are powerful and can lead to our demise. So what is our hope? What is each one of those senses we've got all of them, can bring us down. So yoga indriya samyama. Yoga means learning to control the senses. We have to control the senses. The idea that yoga means you can do anything, no. Yoga indriya samyama. So in the beginning of yoga, there's certain things called, when you practice yam and niyam, there are 8 stages of yoga. Yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Yam, niyam means you have to accept some restriction. Basic restrictions. If you want to develop your spiritual life, you can't become complete. It's very easy to get distracted by the material world. So you got to have some restrictions. Those are summarized in the Krishna consciousness movement. Restrictions are no eating of meat, fish, or eggs, no intoxication, even coffee, tea, or cigarettes, right? No illicit sex, and no gambling. Those are like basic yam. Srila Prabhupada was asked, well, what about sexual love? How come you're restricting sexual love? But he said, we don't say no sex, but sex should be in marriage, especially for having children. And if a person has lots of different partners, they'll be distracted. I mean, even one partner. So they'll be so distracted they won't be able to focus on their spiritual life. Yeah, so these were four basic yam niyam restrictions. But then there's so much energy and so much time and so much interest in engaging the senses. And yogis generally would try to restrict for their whole life to attain spiritual life. The Krishna conscious process, the process that's recommended in Bhagavad Gita, was not simply to restrict the senses, as mentioned in this verse. There was a famous yogi, Vishvamitra Muni, and he was born in a king family, Kshatriya family, and he wanted to become a Brahmin. It's not easy to be a Brahmin. So because he had been when he was a king, he got humiliated by someone who was a Brahmin, Vashishta. He tried to get his cow. So he decided he was going to become a Brahmin. And so he was undergoing austerity and restricted his senses. And as he was doing that austerity for many years, then he was in meditation. And all of a sudden, his meditation broke. You know what happened? He heard the ankle bells. You know, sometimes guys, but often ladies, you know, young ladies, they wear ankle bells. So he heard ankle bells. He looked up, and there was a beautiful damsel, the Apsara, named Menaka, who had come to allure him, sent by Indra, because Indra was worried, oh, this yogi is becoming powerful. He might take over my position. So he looked, and then that was it. His senses were captured, and they right there on the mountain, they had an intercourse, and the child was born. What was the name of the child?
Sakuntala.
Shakuntala, because the Menaka, the society girl, said, I'm not going to be weighted down to take care of this kid. She went back to the heavenly planets, and Vishwamitra Muni said, wow, I'm a yogi. I'm not going to. So neither of them took care of the child. So initially the child was taken care of by Shukunta, means vultures. Then later she became, she was taken care of by a great Muni named Kanva Muni. But this was just to give the example that even somebody who was very good at control, he was practicing the yoga system for years and years and years and years. But at the first sign of some allurement, the senses ran away. In contrast, there was the great devotee named Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is called Namacharya. We say when we do the Prema Devani after the arti, then we say Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was born in the family of a Mohammedan family, and Mohammedan family generally speaking, means that they're carnivores, meat eaters, killing the cow oftentimes. So that was his background. He didn't continue to do that, but because he got association with devotee Madhavendra Puri, he became a great devotee, and he was chanting the holy names 300,000 times daily. And twice, the king in the area, he was a little worried because Haridas Thakur was becoming known as a great saint, and so he wanted to make sure that nobody's going to get carried away and start to have a Hindu revival there in Upper Bengal and Bangladesh. So he hired one beautiful prostitute to go there in the dead of night to allure Haridas Thakur, because he would chant alone in the middle, in the forest in the nighttime. So she came there, and she said, "Oh, he was a young man at this time. He wasn't old man. He was a young man." He said, "I'm attracted." She says, "I'm very, very attracted to you. Can't we just enjoy her? There's nobody here. Nobody will see." And there was nobody there. Well, actually, there were some of the spies of the king, so they didn't have photographs, but they could be the witness. So Haridas Thakur said, you know what Haridas Thakur replied? He said,
Just sit and listen chanting.
yes. No, he said, yes, of course I'll satisfy you. I'll satisfy your desires, of course. Things, attraction and repulsion. He could have said, get out of here. Actually, I didn't say with Vishwamitra, it happened twice that he was allured. The second time he got angry because he saw this, and he burned Cupid with his mystic power, and then he felt, because of that, he'd used all of his energy, and he fell down from yoga practice again. So attachment and aversion, both. But Haridas Thakur, he didn't say, get out of here. He said, oh, sit down. after I'm finished my rounds, then we'll enjoy. Sit down. I have to finish first. So he was chanting, and he was chanting and chanting and chanting all night. And then the dawn came, and she said, well, I got to get going. So I said, yeah, well, tonight, I'm sure to finish my rounds, and then we'll. So then she came back, chanting all night. Said, gosh, I'm really sorry I didn't finish my rounds. Next day. So finally, just by her hearing the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, so from the lips of a great devotee, she became converted to be Krishna conscious. She took up Krishna consciousness devotional life, gave up her business, and became a devotee of Krishna and began chanting Hare Krishna. So in contrast, Vishvamitra, even though he was very good at controlling his senses, just because he wasn't engaging the senses in the Lord's service, then he was easily a victim of fall down. He didn't know how to, like the tortoise, bring his senses in or use his senses only in Krishna service. So of all kinds of yoga, Krishna says in the 6th chapter, there are many kinds of yoga. Many of you know, there's you've heard of karma yoga or jnana yoga or dhyana yoga. All these exist. Some people say Raja yoga, Ashtanga yoga, all different kinds of yoga. And then Krishna at the end of the 6th chapter, he says, Yogi nam api sarvesha. Of all kinds of, there are many different kinds of yoga, but all the different kinds of yogi. Mad gantein antaratmana. Someone who's always thinking of me within themselves. Man gantein antaratmana. Shradhavan bhajate yomam. And engaging in my service. Samayukta tamomataha. That person is the most intimately connected with me in yoga, because yoga means connection. That person, and that is the best yogi. So engaging in the senses in the service of Krishna is the safe path, just rather than just restricting. So Krishna says this later in the Bhagavad Gita also. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina, that one may restrict one's senses from sense objects. Niraharasya, by negative rules. Don't do this. Niraharasya dehina. Raso varjam rasopyasya param drishta nivartate. But the attachment and the attraction for those sense objects will remain. But if you get a higher taste by engaging those senses in Krishna's service, if you get a higher taste, then you can become fixed in consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya, in addition to the 4 regular principles that we mentioned, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada encouraged all of us as our prime duty to give up all of their dharmas and do this one dharma, engage in Lord Krishna's service every single day. Every day. And well, how do you do that? How do you engage in Krishna's service? It's really not that difficult. Sometimes you think, well, service means you got to work hard. A lot of sweat has to come. Well, that's true. You can do that. But the beginning of devotional service is described. Atashri Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriyai. The senses, you can't really understand Krishna just with your material senses, blunt senses. Grayam indriyai. Sevan bukhet jivadao swayam eva spuratyada. That we begin our service to Krishna with a tongue, your tongue. You begin your service to Krishna with the tongue. So the tongue has two main businesses, which are speaking, and tasting. So the beginning of service is regularly vibrating glories of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's so much time in the day. One can take off some time to chant Krishna's names, and by doing so, that higher taste which will help free one from the attraction for all these other sense engagements, which will lead to your demise, begins to develop. Swayam eva sparatyada. Yeah. So that's a really, that's the beginning. So chanting the holy names, and then everybody, we all have to eat something anyway. Taste. So instead of being like the fish, our taste, we can use our taste to make spiritual advancement. One can eat one's way to God. Now that sounds a little ridiculous, but it's not. That's what the potency of Krishna Prasadam is. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Jagya Shishtashina Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishai. Krishna Prasadam can free you. Sarva Kilbishai. Sarva means all. Kilbishai means free you from all karma. Just by tasting the remnants of food that's been offered in love to Krishna. So everybody is eating, everybody's cooking anyway. So find out those things that Krishna likes. And before eating, just take a few minutes and offer them to Krishna. And Krishna will taste that. Krishna says, if you offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, water, in love, Ashnami, I will eat it. He says, I'll eat it. And then after he eats it, he's so kind that he leaves some for us too. That's prasadam. And you could take that prasadam. And prasadam is not ordinary food. Not ordinary food. There's a great devotee. We have his picture going to be put up in the other room. Is Narad Muni. Narad Muni was a boy of 5. And how did he make such advancement? Well, there were some great souls, some great yogis, Bhaktivedantas, who came to his home, and they left some remnants of his food. And he said, can I take some? After they had offered it to Krishna. And she said, yeah, sure. So he took a little bit of that prasadam, and so much of his sinful reactions were gone. So what is the result of our sinful reactions being gone? Our heart becomes clean. We're no longer overwhelmed by lust, envy, the desire to criticize other people. We become our natural condition is on that spiritual platform is to be happy, joyful all the time. Not because we won the football game or because we got a raise. No, by our very nature, our nature of the soul is ananda, satchidananda, eternally blissful. And the more, if we can come into contact and realize that nature, what's stopping us? The dirt on the heart, the karma on the heart. So any way we can get rid of that karma, we can do that. So chanting the holy names is really the special mercy to be able to do that, and taking Krishna Prasadam. And in addition to that, we have so much time to the day. We should think about, what can I do for Krishna, for God? I mean, God has all these people in the whole, he's the Supreme Lord of all universes. So what can we do? Well, not that much. But what he likes to see is that we're trying to do something for him. A little child, they're getting their allowance from the parents anyway. But if they use their allowance to buy something nice for the parent, then this is very nice. Similarly, everything we have is coming from Krishna. He doesn't need anything. But what does he do? What he does want, he wants us, he wants our affection. We're spreading our affection all over the place. Let's focus a little bit on Lord Krishna, see what we can do for him. So, this temple, there are so many services that are available in the temple to do. It's an opportunity for us to do some service, to practice doing service for Krishna. Chanting, hearing, like we're doing, but also some other things, cleaning pots, cooking, decorating, all these kinds of things are important for developing our Krishna consciousness. Doing it regularly, you'll be happy. You'll be happy. Hare Krishna. I spoke a while. Do you have any questions or comments or? I don't on the. I don't see any on here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, so in a nutshell, what I'm getting from your class is that the best thing for us to do is to satisfy the Krishna, who is the reservoir of all pleasure. So we will be feeling that kind of pleasure and that happiness, rather than to try to serve the senses for sense gratification and suffer the consequences.
Yes, you know that. You're good. Very good. Very good. Thank you. That was out of Induksha, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Okay. Yes.
The example of the tortoise withdrawal and then acting. I'm trying to think of to Arjuna. He initially we say he was trying to withdraw, and Krishna was trying to tell him to act. And he was trying to withdraw himself from acting in battle, and Krishna was saying.
Yes, Krishna was telling him to act. Yes. So he's so act when it's the proper time and restrict when it's not the proper time. So he was restricting, when he was supposed to be out acting when Lord Krishna wanted him to act. And even though from a mundane point of view, it didn't seem to be such a good moral thing to do, but Lord Krishna is the supreme morality. So the highest morality is to do the will of God. Back and forth, Krishna, Arjuna asked him, Krishna many times. He said, I'm really confused because on one hand you say better to stop material activity, but the other time you're saying to act. So which am I supposed to do? You're talking, it sounds like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. So again and again, Krishna says, yes, to refrain from material activity and acting for the satisfaction of the Supreme, both are good, but of the two, acting for the benefit of the Supreme is best. And then he says, Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiya sa sannyasi cha yogi cha naniragnirnya chakriha. He said, one who is not attached to the results of their work, but works as they are obligated. That person is the real renunciant, the sannyasi, not person who doesn't do anything. So acting as one is obligated. So it just so happens that at this time, Arjuna's obligation was to fight, which was his Varana Dharma, but it's also because Krishna wanted him to do it. So that's our ultimate obligation, is to act in a way that Krishna wants us to do, as you said, putting those arms out for Krishna's satisfaction when necessary, and when it's for some other purpose, for our own. We get into trouble. Especially everybody does. Kids also do. Good. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Bol. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Oh, there's a question here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vishnugada Prabhuji, for today's spiritual discourse. And I believe this is your third service activity of the day or the fourth one?
Anyway, I want to, hopefully many, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you for overburdening for the benefit of all the devotees of ISKCON Philly. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your service and your selfless dedication to the Lord and to the devotees. And we are all benefiting in one way or the other from your services. I have like a quick question. Yes, outside as a superficial, I know, very basic level devotee. I mean, I can't even call myself devotee. I'm like a just pre-follower, a pre-devotee of ISKCON thing. It's easy. The way you look at Gita, the way I look at Gita is, yes, it tells you what is good, what is bad at a very superficial level. But in life, it's not everything is not black and white. You know, there are some gray areas. So how do you go about distinguishing the gray areas? Does the Gita have an answer?
Every situation has to be judged by use of, you can use the Bhagavad Gita. There's also, you can get information from other Vedic literature. You can inquire from gurus and sadhus, what they've done in the past. That's usually our method, you know. So like Arjun was confused. It was a gray area for him. You know, it was a gray area what he should do. So he approached Krishna and said, what should I do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's a gray area for me. And Krishna was very clear about what he should do. So, you know, sometimes we have to decide on our own. We don't have a situation where, you know, we can consult with someone. If it's a really important question, then we probably want to consult with someone. But sometimes we don't have the time. So then the thing to do, we usually look inside and ask Krishna, you help me. Krishna says, I'm the super soul within everybody's heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesho janatishtati. So if the gray area, please help me see which is going to be best for my service to you, my service for the situation, and act as possible. So those things. What does Krishna say? What is getting instruction from or advice, consultation from qualified people you trust, and then requesting help from the super soul within to do those.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is it possible to give like a crash course in, like, you know, fast track crash course in Bhagavad Gita for you? It's a request. It's a request.
Oh, okay. Well, the administration can take it up. I mean, that's certainly a valuable idea to do. Yeah. Thank you. Good suggestion. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. A book would be good. Yes, Prabhuji. A nice book would be good.
Hare Krishna. I want to thank Vishnu Gada Prabhu for speaking tonight. Again, it was a last-minute request, and spoke very, very nicely on the Bhagavad Gita on this particular topic. I do see we have a couple comments here. Okay, I think we asked that question. It was from Renika. For those that didn't get the message, I'll just repeat it because it takes a couple weeks for things to get in order when you make a change. We changed the Sunday feast timing from 4 o'clock to 4:30. 4:30 starts. We have the kirtan and the arti. We are opening that up for people to come. We do request people sign up. I know there are a number of you signed up online, so thank you. The reason we do that is so that we don't get an overabundance of people, because we can only fit so many people here in the temple room at one time. The other thing is, at 5 o'clock, we also close the doors until 6 o'clock. And that prevents interruption from people that are come to listen to the class. They can come and listen to the class. And then, because we also require somebody to check somebody in, take your temperature and such. So if you are interested in coming, come by 5 o'clock. Best to come by 4:30 for the kirtan. But if you just want to come for the class, come by 5 o'clock. And if not, then you'll have to wait till 6 o'clock when the doors open up again. Also, if you want prasadam will be distributed at 6 o'clock. Again, we also request you to RSVP. This will allow us to prepare the right amount. If we prepare too much, then too much goes to waste, which is not good. And if we don't prepare enough, then people are disappointed, and that is also not good. So from home, if you could help us out, we'll do our best here at the temple. You do your part there at home, and everything will work out by Krishna's grace. Throughout the week, we have programs. In the morning time, we do our japa chanting as a group, starting at 6:30, and we go to 7:50. It'd be great if you can join us for the whole time. If you can't, and just want to drop in for a couple rounds, a couple minutes, that's fine as well. At 7:50 to 8:30, we have our Srimad Bhagavatam class, and that is on our Zoom link. Those that are listening already know about it. Those of you in the temple room, if you want connection to that Zoom link, let me know, and I'll forward it to you. Thursday evening, we have a special night where we study Srila Prabhupada's Leela. That starts at 7 o'clock every Thursday night. We read one of the books written by one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. It gives insight into the life of Srila Prabhupada by those who lived and served him during the initial days of ISKCON. Also coming up in about 3 weeks, be the first week of November we're shooting for, we're going to be offering a Vaishnav etiquette and standard behavior class that'll go over topics. It'll be about a 5-week course. It'll cover sadhana, Vaishnav behavior amongst devotees, how devotees should interact with one another on levels of seniority, the different adhikaris that are there, the different levels of devotees, and the relationships that devotees should have and interact with one another. Also, temple room etiquette, the kind of the correct behavior one should have in the temple. And then we also have a class on kirtan etiquette and behavior. And then we also have a special class by Shureshwar Prabhu about Srila Prabhupada and his prominent position as Acharya and Guru for everybody within ISKCON. And that'll be given on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. So more to come on that course this next week. You'll see something in the newsletter advertising it. So I just wanted to get it out there for everyone. Okay, that's all for me. So is it for everyone, those who are initiated, this Vaishnav etiquette and standard behavior class? It's really for devotees that are a little bit serious and want to come closer. Those devotees that want to pick up and do some service in the temple and also make spiritual advancement. This isn't like etiquette class that people are just making up here. It's going to be given reference from Srila Prabhupada, from the Shastras, about the kind of the do's and the don'ts of what to do. So a lot of times we come into a temple and we see people doing things, and then we just kind of follow what they do, but we don't necessarily know why they do it or what to do. And we're going to give some background onto that. One instance is you come and you offer obeisances when you come in. You start from one side and then go to the other. Why do we do that? Why do we start at Guru and go up to Radhashar Bihari? Some people start at Radhashar Bihari and go back to Guru. Which is right? What is the philosophy behind it? There's prayers that are to be said when you offer obeisances. What are those prayers? Different people chant different things. What do the acharyas say should be done? So we want to do things. We want to worship in the proper way. We want to learn these things from the beginning, and these things will enhance our spiritual lives. So it's really for those that want to take the next step. Certainly for those that are initiated, those that are aspiring for initiation, and those that want to learn more about the Vaishnav culture. That's what the class will be for. Thank you, Renika, for asking that question.
So those who are not initiated, can they attend the class or not? That was my question.
Yes, they can, if they're interested.
So, okay, is it a Zoom class?
It will be Zoom, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and it'll probably be 5 weeks. It'll be a 5-week course.
Thank
Okay, so we'll conclude here. Thank you all for attending, those here in the temple as well as those online. And we hope to see you throughout the week at our morning and evening classes. Hare Krishna.